To overcome, you must educate. Educate not only yourself, but educate anyone seeking to learn. We are all dead America. We can all learn something. To learn, we must challenge what we already understand. The way we do that is through conversation. Sometimes we have conversations with others. However, some of the best conversations happen with ourselves. Reach out and challenge yourself. Let's dive in and learn something right now. Today we have King Chaka ent with us. Let's not waste any time and get right into this. Chaka, could you please introduce yourself and give the people just a little bit of background on who you are and what you do, please?
Yes, my name is Chaka Perkins. I'm a University of Houston student. My major is anthropology. I'm actually about to graduate, and I plan on continuing and get a master's degree, and also I want to go to law school. And so, but my heart is with activism, because I want to find a way to do activism one way or another. So if it's not through academics, then it'll be through just going in the community and screaming in people's face. So yeah, my King Chaka ent is the name of the page, and my slogan is, we want you to be an activist. We create activists. So I focus on history. I focus on education. I focus on, explaining politics. And, I don't pick a left or right or whatever. I want people to stop the left-right paradigm, the Democrat-Republican paradigm, because that's how they're separating people and allowing people to not be able to see what's actually happening. So I dissect politics, I go over history, and, race is a big thing here in the United States that doesn't get talked, it doesn't have enough context. Like, we don't talk about it in the right way. So that's another thing that I focus on my channel, because we can't leave that out of the spectrum of the conversation, because it's very, very relevant.
Oh, you're so right. And a lot of people like to be ostriches and put their head in the sand when it comes to those hard things because when you have an opinion, other people are going to judge you. And that's kind of the mindset of America. And that's not who we are, really. We are independent people. We lead, we don't follow. We are all activists and we should have an opinion and we should be proud of our opinion. So, what got you started in activism?
Uh, Man, I ain't gonna lie. Maybe I was an activist for the longest. I've always pushed against the dominant structures. I give my instructors a hard time at the university whenever it's something. The paper I'm writing right now, the professor had us read this book by a feminist, which is okay, but it was like some of the topics that she, like, even the citations she used went back to some stuff that I felt wasn't proper. Like, it wasn't. So I have to push back against that. I can't allow any of us, to fall, into these, little groups and sections that kind of like alienate one over another. Well, right now in the United States, I feel like they pit us against each other in every single different
Oh
way.
yeah.
Like the thing with the masks and the mandates right now, everybody has to choose a side. We're all at each other's necks. I don't know. I just care. I have a heart, and it hurts me to see the United States in the position that we're in, just like at each other's throats. And I mean, I don't know. I really don't. The answer is I don't know when it started. That's the simple answer.
Yeah, well, sometimes that is the answer because that's true to myself. I think I was just born that way, and I've always questioned authority. You know, early on in my schooling at the fourth grade level, that's when it hit. And the teacher I had kind of made me push back, and I ran from school. I ran from authority, and still to this day, yeah, it's good to keep authority in check, because here in America, we the people are the authority, and sometimes those roles of authority that are given as a respect, in return we expect higher morals, higher standards, they get treaded on really easily. And the power that we give is not to be powerful with.
Right. And I think that our power, we're forgotten that we have power. And I think that it's because of the media, it keeps telling us that we don't have power. You
Yes.
know, it's they're telling us to just, your vote is your voice, and then that's it. And and basically go sit down and shut up.
Well, really, Chaka, that's kind of why you're stepping up. That's why I'm stepping up. We see these imbalances, these immoral characters within our so called news media, and there's some good ones, but most of them are stepping away from that so called media spotlight, and they're starting to really personalize and become independent in their journalism, and really want to be able to voice their opinion instead of that platform opinion. And that's very important for what we are doing as the little guy. But yet, us as the little guy, we do have a place, we have a purpose. And what you're doing is very, very needed, because if we can get people to start relating, communicating, and understanding, we're not divided. We're people and we have the power. I don't care what religion, color, I don't care about any of that. I care that you really take part and you recognize if there's a wrong, like you just stated earlier, you'd better be pointing it out. And that's why you're so important in what we're doing by podcasting, broadcasting, and getting other people to actually come along and get involved. That's what it's about.
And I like what you said, because we're all just humans. We're all just humans, right? They like to say conservative or liberal. I don't think anybody is completely conservative or completely liberal. You can be socially conservative and economically liberal, and you can be economically conservative and socially liberal. If that makes sense, what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
that's a good point. I like what
It,
you just said.
we're all a mix of those. We're not, it's way more complex than the boxes that they like to put us in. I can agree with Tucker Carlson, and I can agree with Rachel Maddow. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I don't even have a TV in my house anymore because of the division. See, I get enough information, and I get to choose how I consume that better by not having that commercialized box in my house. And that's why I love podcasting and
Yeah,
people on YouTube, things like that. We need
yeah,
to really take back our power in a educated way. We don't have to bring guns and violence into it. They have to listen to us if we are in a collective stance.
yes, I completely agree. And I don't watch TV anymore. I scroll you. I mean, I'm on YouTube and I scroll Instagram, and that's pretty much all I do now. And read books.
Yeah.
Because the TV, like, there's nothing. It's all trash. It's all forcing us to embrace our lower selves, and
Yes.
and causing division and strife in our, because of the economic model, right? The profit model, right? These companies, whatever it is, the TV show, whatever you're watching, they don't care about what's real or what's true or what's going to help the community. All they care about is making a dollar. So if that's their motivation, then they're not gonna, they're never gonna be, helpful, really.
Yeah, that stems from that Howard Stern uh shock jock type reporting that really started creeping in and stuff. But when we allowed these people to really start polluting our atmosphere of information intake, and really I don't even recognize when it started to creep in, because I have questions so far back that, the Nixon Watergate, the Kennedy thing, there is so much in our nation that we are oblivious, because these forces, these want to control us people, they have an agenda. And if we don't recognize that agenda, we are subject to it. And I did not recognize this until I was hurt, injured, and I was forced to really look deep into what was happening around me. Otherwise, I was too busy in the mundane 9 to 5, get it done, come home. I didn't care. I had too much to worry about. But that mindset, that's very wrong and very inconsiderate of everybody, even ourselves. So once we start to say, hey, I'm going to question that. If it doesn't sound right, I have the right to ask why. Why is that? Because science or something tells me this, and you're trying to tell me this. There's nothing wrong with that.
But the authority, we've been trained to follow authority with no question. Um, you know, it's been trained since we were in elementary school to just the authority figure do what they say and that's it. You know, like you said, and then that leaves us powerless, because we believe in the authority, just like the media we was mentioning. So the media is a sense of an authority to a lot of people. CNN, MSNBC, or Fox, or wherever, they feel like they have an authority over the subject matter. So then a large segment of our, populace, takes what they say as, as gospel, and don't question it, because if they feel like it's coming from an approved source, an authoritative source.
Yes, that's very key right there. And there was a study done back in the 60s by Stanley Milgram, and it was, what would you do if authority told you it was okay, basically. And the amount, and people need to look up the Milgram experiment, what a white coat and a suit will do to the ordinary person is amazing. That authority, well, they said it's okay, so that relieves us in the responsibility, but it doesn't really. It doesn't.
It
You
does.
are still pushing the button. And
Right.
that Milgram experiment stems out of the Nazi population in Germany that just went along with the ideology of Hitler, and the brown shirts, and this is not good mentality. You need to stand up, you need to question, and you need answers that make sense. If it doesn't make sense, you need more questions that they need to answer. And this
Because
is a good mindset to have.
yeah, I completely agree that, like, a lot of the SS soldiers didn't agree with what they were doing, but they felt trapped in it. They felt like they had to do what they had to do. But what a lot of people don't understand is, if you got the order to pull the trigger, your finger is the one that pulled the trigger.
That's right. That is very true. And that's what we need to really identify. It doesn't matter what authority tells you, you have the right to say no. And no matter what the circumstance is, you get to choose if you're just going to go along with evil or not. And that's the whole point of it. we've lost the ability to stand up to the authority, and that's not how America is. We protect that here. And I really encourage more people to stand up, and we don't need all the violence if we educate properly, and don't let them, hide the knowledge and suppress the the information. This is key. Make sure what you're learning is proper and understand history usually repeats itself.
Exactly. You have to do your due diligence. And that's why I focus on history. And I think that's the same reason why we're not taught history properly. It's skewed and it has a narrative, and to lead you to think in a certain way. And certain things are excluded and some things are highlighted. And then we don't get to really understand. And like I say, even in the official academics, the educational history is not adequate. So I think each one of us have to do our due diligence, go back and take a, because the information is there, but you just have to do a little digging. And if you do understand what happened in history, then you can understand what's happening now. I stress that all the time. How can you understand what's happening now if you don't understand what happened yesterday?
That is very true, because history is where it's at. But we all also have to remember that history is always subject to the morals of the party in control. And coming out of World War II, those morals sort of shifted into the American hands. And here we are drifting from those ideologies that we believed in before the war. We were isolationist. We were people should pick themselves up. Remember, Edgar Hoover wanted us to actually pick ourselves up and work ourselves out of the depression. And then you have Roosevelt coming in with the New Deal era that made it simple and easy, and people kind of have went downhill from those socialistic principles that were instituted and instilled into the American ecology right there. It's kind of uh, really naive for people to be blind of that fact, that when we are not willing to do the hard stuff is going to fall on us.
And the biggest problem I think with the United States today is that we don't manufacture anything anymore.
Hmm.
That when the time where you're talking about, we manufactured everything that we needed. So that's what I mean, though. And also, kind of like this, you touched on socialism a bit. So, like, even to this day, if you go to rural areas out in the country, these farms, they help each other. If
Yes.
if 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 this season my harvest was great and my neighbor's harvest wasn't, then I'm gonna share with him. And then the next season my harvest isn't so great and theirs was, they're gonna share with me. We're gonna make sure that we make it through this. My tractor breaks down, then and I don't have what the resources I need, then my neighbor is gonna come through for me. And they do this in rural areas. And
Yes.
a lot of people will call that socialism, but we have this thing against socialism, like it's become a bad word. And like I say, the manufacturing, we don't make anything. So that's why we got to rely on these other countries. This is our problem. We need to be manufacturing everything that we need here within our borders.
That's right. We need to be independent, and we have every resource here on this continent to ensure that. And really this shifts into that falling into the ease of everything. We've shifted our manufacturing offshores, and the burden of workload has actually went around the world, but yet the wealth that is actually initiated out of that growth has not grown along with the path of its growth. The wealth has stayed sort of isolated. And this is kind of my beef with the capitalist system. We've allowed when we brought in these corporations, they were to help build America. But now those were chartered at the time, and very few of those corporate charters were actually given out. We've went hog wild and we've allowed our greed to take over, is what my opinion is on that.
Yeah, I completely agree because we all want to be Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, but we all cannot be Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. It's an impossible thing, So we all can't be Jeff Bezos. You know what I'm saying? One thing I think people don't understand is the American public, we subsidize Jeff Bezos and them. Like, let's say
That's right.
the pharmaceutical companies, the research going into these new drugs, a lot of that comes from the taxpayers' money. But then a private person owns that patent.
Yes.
So we flip the bill for most of the investments, but then a private person gets to own the patent and then sell it right back to us at egregious unfair prices. People are
That's
dying because they can't pay for pharmaceuticals when the pharmaceuticals were produced by the money that came from the people.
that is the very logic that is killing us, and once we realize that and shift back to manufacturing, taking care of ourselves again, getting more agrarian in our mindset, learning how to grow our gardens, learning how to repair things instead of throwing them away and buying something new. These mindsets are sustainable, and these are how we grow and bring our economy back. So it was built up by a lot of that. Like you said, people got paychecks to build this, and then it's like our power grid. It was subsidized big time. And now we're paying big time when we're the ones that paid to help build this. Like you just said, where did that come from? And why are we allowing this behavior for a progressive state to happen?
I don't have an answer to that one.
Yeah.
Insanity.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I would say that the future will have to be local. The only way we're going to survive is if we have small farms, local farms, local everything that we go to get our products and services from for for us to even continue to be a country. People think that United States can't go away, but it can go away. It has happened
That's
historically.
right.
Countries come and go. They rise and they fall. People think that United States is invincible, and we're not. And the only way for us to survive into the future is to go back to, because Monsanto, these big huge
That's
farms,
right.
the pine oil, acres and acres of pine or soybeans, we can't even eat that. Like, that's not sustainable. We need small farms that have multiple different uh things that they grow to support their local region. you know that's it. We can't be growing acres and acres of soybeans to sell some stuff to China or whatever the hell. If things go down, we can't sell those soybeans, and we're hungry. We got acres and acres of soybeans that we can't eat, and we will starve.
It's same with corn. We've got the same incentivized corn industry, and you stated Monsanto. This corporation wants to patent the seed, so they control the rights to a seed. That's nonsense.
That's
So
insanity,
it's
and
insanity.
it's already happening. The
That's right.
the products that they grow don't produce seeds, so each season the farmers got to go buy the seeds from Monsanto again
That's right.
because they can't use the seeds from the products. And then Monsanto, has such a monopoly on this thing that if you do grow something else, they're going to sue you or whatever, because they're going to say your plants are cross pollinating and messing up our stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And how the heck did that get passed? Through all of these big money lobbyists that we allow inside our house, the people's house. We, the people, got shoved out and big business got let in. There's something wrong there.
The people have no voice. The big money, the lobbyists. And then another thing I think people need to understand: the lobbyists, the CEOs, and the politicians, these are all the same people. It's a revolving door. You leave one
That's
job and go
right.
to the other. And these are the elite crowd, that gets to make all the decisions. Like I say, if we really want to fix the politics, then we got to take the big money out of it. There's no way there can be any kind of fairness if a big pharmaceutical company can put all this money behind a candidate and then put all this money on this lobbyist to basically write the laws that goes to Congress, and then they own half the politicians that's voting.
That's
So
right.
the laws are going to pass in their favor regardless of what we do.
That's right. So people awakening to these behaviors, that's what we need. And, I used to get irritated, mad, and angry. And now I grab books, I read more, and I reach out to people and I try to educate those that are still lost. And that movement is picking up big time. It is helping. We, the people, run the place here in America. And these laws that we go by, we've allowed professional people to manipulate us long enough. It's time to really educate ourselves about civics, how government works, and making sure we tell the little people, the children, this, get them involved. Don't say, don't worry about it. That's not for us. It is for us. And the
And
more people we can aspire and direct into getting involved with the politics and becoming that, school board member, that city administrator, that clerk, any political office, any place that runs our government, the library. We have to take all of these places back from that we've been doing it this way for 40 years mentality, and it's not going to change. Well, change is coming to America. And
I agree with you on that, because it's going to have to. If not, then we won't be America no more.
that's right.
But the system it breeds this nihilistic attitude. It breeds that don't care attitude, because people go out and they try, they vote, and then the things don't go the way that they want. So then they're like, it doesn't even matter if I vote, because they're just gonna do whatever. So I'm just like, man, I don't care or whatever. It's nothing I could do anyways. So, but that's the attitude they want you to have,
That's right.
so that they continue the status quo. And so many I know so many people who have that attitude, and these are really intelligent, smart people who even understand how things work. They still have that nihilistic attitude of like, I mean, hey, just get in where you fit in, keep your head down, you know, and do what they say, and just try your best to, take care of your kids and your family, because that's the best you can do.
No, rock the boat, baby. I mean, splash water inside and make sure they get wet, because we need their ears to hear. And, when we have people storming our Capitol, getting violent, it's time for change. And we don't need this violence. We have structured within our Constitution the ability to have a convention of states. And Article 5 lays it out where we can actually rewrite the Constitution without a lot of BS. And we don't really need to rewrite the Constitution. We need to stop amending the Constitution and let the individual interpret that broad document for his or herself the way that our founding was supposed to be in the first place.
Well, if they don't start reacting to the people, a violent revolution is inevitable. It's
Yes,
unavoidable. If things don't change, if they don't start to listen, if we don't make enough noise, if we don't get in there politic and change things, and make things actually work for the people the way it was designed. Because, like you said, I think that the system was set to work for the people, but the powers that be have found their ways for it to not work. So it's like our democracy doesn't function. We don't have a functioning democracy.
well, that's very true. And this is the ebb and flow of America. We have always fought and battled against these oppressive individuals. And that's why we need to keep the power of that checks and balances going. Because once America is gone, well, Nazi Germany is going to be worse than ever. And I'm not saying Germany's coming, I'm saying the mentality of that.
Right.
This
The
is the
fascism.
behavior. That's right. The
Yes.
fascist behavior, the walk of death in front of you. It's not a good place to go. And we touched a little bit about the socialistic behaviors. Now, it's not bad to be social, these social programs, these welfare programs that I talked about earlier that the government instilled, those have always and should always be charity minded. That comes from the church and the people, not the government. Because when we allow the government to feed us,
We
they
become
become the
dependent.
power.
Yeah, we become dependent.
That's right.
And that's what they want. They want complete dependence on the government. And then that reinforces their authority, because you can't fight back against the government if that's how you eat. If they're the ones who provide you food,
That's
you're
right.
not going. You're never going to fight against them, because you're going to be like, I want to keep the government as it is because that's how I eat. They feed me.
That's right. And especially here in America, we do not want that behavior marching in because we do have one hell of a badass military, and we don't want that going into an evil force. So it's important that we come together and we recognize the power of unity.
I agree. I agree. I completely agree. We have to stop with the labels, because we're humans at the end of the day,
That's right.
and it's a human society. And it's a human community, and none of us can do anything. As an individual completely. We need each other. We're natural. We're mammals. We're naturally group community animals. For us to that's how we were able to dominate the planet, is by each other, like relying on each other.
That's
Each
right.
one of us can't do everything.
That's right.
We have to rely on our brothers and sisters, and we have to come together as a community to accomplish things, or otherwise we won't be able to accomplish the things that we want, that needs to be done.
And that is the mindset of activism. So, how can people actually find you and get involved with you? And, also, what is your call to action for people to get involved with you?
Well, right now, I mean, it's only been about 4 months or so since I started my channel, so I'm just growing. I just reached over 100 subscribers on my YouTube channel, but they can find me everywhere. I'm on Spotify, Apple, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. And the keyword is King Chaka ent for all of that. Right now, I just want to start the conversation because we have to start somewhere. So people are so, unmotivated right now that I feel like we need to start to the conversation first. We need to start there, start having these really difficult, hard conversations that, so my channel is a place to come to have, because you can't talk about this stuff at church. You can't talk about it at work. You can't talk about it at school. You can't talk about it in public, or somebody might punch you in the face. So my channel is a place for us to come and have these really tough conversations so that we can begin to, go down that road of activism, so hopefully we could come together and build, networks. We have to build institutions, to support our community. But that this is hard work that takes a long time and lots of resources. So this kind of thing can't happen overnight. So, I'm just trying to bring together like-minded people that want to, you know, be activists, people that want to make a change so that we can share knowledge, information, so we can share resources, and at some point we will be able to build an institution that can really go out and help people. Like we can coordinate it. You get what I mean? We can coordinate the activism, together. So when we use these platforms so that we can communicate, because I think that a lot of big part of this with the mandates and the masks and everything is just to separate us. They saw us coming together. I think the powers that be are afraid. I really do. Their way of life is gonna go out the window because we're coming together. So, but then they scare us and make us not come together and not even communicate with each other. There's no way we could. What happened to the unions in America? We used to have strong unions all the way across the nation. They've been pulled and broken and torn apart. So, like I say, first we need to start the conversation, and then we need to start building unions, institutions that, are funded by the people, ran by the people, and for the people.
That's powerful. And, it reminds me of The Bug's Life, I believe it's called, the little cartoon where the grasshoppers are
Right,
controlling the ants, and
right.
the big grasshopper, they're all sitting around the bar and they're having a good time. And uh, after the one ant stood up to him and he says, he takes this little whatever prune or pit and he throws it at the one ant, says, "Does that hurt?" "No, that doesn't hurt." Well, he finally pulls the jar plug and all of these pits just plummet on top of him. And he says, "Now, this is all of them ganging up on you. If one of them stands up and you let them, they're all going to come." And that's
I
the
love
premise here.
I love that quote. I use it all the time, you
Yeah,
know. And look at the journalists. Look what they're doing to journalists now. We know that they've been so many journalists have been killed in Mexico. This is in the news.
that's
They don't
right.
talk they don't talk about how they oppress journalists here in America. You can't get a job if you're not following, the if you're not talking about the right things. They're gonna blackball you and kick you completely out and starve you out. In Mexico they just kill. In a lot of countries they just kill you. In the United States they just make you not be able to have a job.
That's right. And this is very important, Chaka, because this Donald Trump thing with the cancellation on social medias and all of that, if they can do it to him, how easy is it going to be for me and you to get flushed down the toilet?
It's a good
So
point.
we need to remember that. And we need to stand up and make sure the little guy can be heard. And even if I don't agree with you, you have the right to speak your opinion.
And I 100%, man, because that's what I scream all the time. Like I'm not a Trump supporter, but them taking all of his social media away, that is wrong on so many fundamental levels.
That's right.
It's okay. I don't have to agree with him. I don't have to listen to him either. But he has the right to speak what his mind, what he has to say. We have no right to take away his right to speak, that is so insane. And everybody was okay with it because they're like, oh, we don't agree with Trump, so it's okay to just take all his social medias. I was screaming at the top of my lungs, this is a travesty. This man has no way to they took all his social medias away. Like that's a travesty.
That's right. And it's elusive to me right now, but there is this thing about when they came for Johnny, I didn't say anything. When they came for Sue, I didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
When they came for me, there was no one else to stand up to speak out against it.
And I say this all the time, if we let them come at any one of us, if we let them take the rights away of any one of us, then we are allowing them to take the rights away of all of us because they're coming for us next. We got to stand up and not allow them to take the rights from anyone.
That's right.
Anyone. Women's rights are human's rights.
That's right.
LGBTQ rights are human rights.
Everybody.
Black rights are human rights.
Yep.
It's we're all human. You can't allow them to take the rights of any group or segment of people that they want to choose, because if you let them do that, who's to say they won't come and do it to you?
That's right. The moment you don't recognize somebody else's rights, your rights are already gone. So anyway, our time is short here. I want to say thank you for participating, and we really need to hook up again and get involved more and really start having more of these conversations. Thank you for participating in the Dead America podcast.
I really enjoyed the conversation, man. Way more than I thought I would have. I ain't gonna lie to you. And like I say, if we start talking, then we'll start realizing that we agree a lot more than we disagree.
That's right.
So, I invite who's ever listening to join the show. We go on Wednesday and Thursday night at about 11 o'clock. And then we go on Friday and Saturday night at about 1 a.m. or so. And like I say, the best place to find us is live is YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter. That's where the show will be live. The clips show up in other places, and the podcast versions of the show show up on Spotify, Apple, Anchor, so forth and so on. King Chaka ent, you guys.
King Chaka ent. Speak it loud, be proud, and keep doing what you are doing, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Peace and love.
Thank you for joining us today. If you found this podcast enlightening, entertaining, educational in any way, please share, like, subscribe, and join us right back here next week for another great episode of Dead America Podcast. I'm Ed Waters, your host. Enjoy your afternoon, wherever you may be.